Are you also wondering about human behavior like how I am? Guess what? The guest who I have today is a human behavior specialist and consultant. So before any delay, let's welcome Carly Pepin. Hi, Carly. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good too. Firstly, thank you so much for being part of Inspiration Talks. I really appreciate. So, Carly, I would like to start our today's conversation with your background. Like, what do you do? What's your profession?
Yeah, so I'm a human behavior specialist, and individuals come to me when they're looking to transform perceptual challenges that are holding them back from creating a life by design, something that they can wake up inspired by daily, as opposed to living a life of duty. So we just focus on shifting what's going on within, and then they can take the intrinsic action to ensure they're moving forward daily in a direction that inspires them most.
Okay, that's great to know. So, was this your dream profession? Like, when you were a kid, did you think of this profession? Like, mostly people think they want to become a doctor or engineer or architect. So, what was your dream job?
Definitely not when I was a kid. I wouldn't say I had a dream job when I was a kid. I just really liked certain things. And for me, it was part of what I really wanted is to just work in an industry that I liked something, So my main thought when I was growing up were what were the things that I liked and what jobs were available for that. So that was my main kind of focus. Present day, I really like personal development and mindset. So I am technically kind of living the dream that I had when I was a kid, but it wasn't this specifically. It was just, I just want to do something that I love.
Okay, so this is something which you love. So as you are a human behavior specialist, I would like to know, like many people nowadays, they compare themselves with each other. So, like, what's your perspective on this? Like, why do
Mhm.
people compare themselves with other people?
Yeah, so the comparisons is actually one of the biggest challenges that we can impose on ourselves. And it's one of the biggest things that hold us back because a comparison is a judgment. It's the perception that someone is either better than you or worse than you. So you've either put someone above you or below you. The truth is we're all actually equal. We all have the same thing within us, just in our own unique form and our own priorities. So, for example, a mom, I call them the CEOs of the household. They
Yeah.
definitely run a household, they're running schedules, they're managing things, they're teaching people, they're training people, they're doing the same thing that a business owner does. They're just doing it on a different scale in the household and making sure that these kids like go out and thrive. They often are the ones who are running the finances at home. That happens quite frequently too. And so the business person is also building a family at business. So they're at the business and they're not disconnected from family. They're creating family connections, they're creating a community. They're doing the same things. They're trying to build and raise these individuals in an office setting to help them to thrive in a new environment. So both individuals are doing the same thing, they're just doing it in their own unique form. When we compare ourselves to an outside world and say one is better than the other, we put ourselves down and diminish our own life purpose, and it actually disconnects us from it. We start to feel depressed, we start to feel upset with our life because we don't think it's what it was supposed to look like instead of appreciating ourselves for what it actually is and embracing that, nurturing it, and continuing to master it on a greater scale. When we compare ourselves in the form where we put other people in a pit, right? And we say that they're bad people, something's wrong, something's negative about them, we put ourselves on a pedestal. And you actually walk around the planet puffed up about yourself, thinking that you're a better person. And whenever you attract and connect with an individual who's very self-righteous and treats you like they're better than you, it's someone that you immediately disconnect from. It's someone that you don't want to be around. It's someone that you don't want to listen to. You don't want to learn from. You don't want to hang out with. And why is that? Because it doesn't feel good to not be loved and appreciated for who we are. So that's why judgments also prevent us from moving forward in life because it blocks us from the reality of what is. Even the things that you see outside yourself that you're frustrated with are just disowned parts of yourself. We sometimes only want to focus on the positive, but we forget that if we build up too much pride, it becomes self-righteousness. So we also want to focus on not blocking the parts of us that we're resenting and reflecting on the outside world that builds shame so we can actually clear that shame and guilt as well. Take no credit, take no blame, just keep focused on your chief aim. Beautiful quote by BJ Palmer, who's a chiropractor, but a very wise philosopher as well.
Okay, so from this, as you said, be positive and, like never think negative. So how to stay positive?
Mhm.
Like nowadays, there are many people who judge others, and there are people who will judge and they will compare also. Like if one is getting more success, they will be like, okay, he or she is like becoming more successful than them, although they both are in the same field. So how to tackle such situations?
Yeah, so the goal actually isn't to only be positive and not be negative. The goal is to have both in life. We're not meant to only have positivity because positivity is a false viewpoint without having all the data. For example, if I'm walking, I'm going to give Los Angeles as an example. So, for those individuals who have been to downtown in LA, there are certain streets you just don't want to walk down. So, if I'm in downtown Los Angeles and I'm walking, just around the city, and I all of a sudden walk by a street. There's a street called Crack Alley. So people who are in there, they actually know what that is. We call it Crack Alley because it's filled with homeless individuals and it's quite dangerous. If I walk by that street and I only have a positive mindset, then I'm going to sit there and say, everyone's good, everyone's friendly, the world is on my side, everything is positive, and I'm going to walk down a street that's quite dangerous where people have been attacked. Sometimes, I mean, you can read stories, sometimes there's some pretty hefty and very intense circumstantial situations. When you go do something like that, I'm for sure going to get robbed. I'm for sure going to have an issue. I'm not meant to think positive all the time. The truth is we want to see both sides, because if you're not seeing both sides for something, you're not preparing yourself for the other outcome. When I walk by that street, I look down and I say, yes, these people definitely have potential, but I also recognize that some of them are stuck in some mindsets, circumstances, challenges that are causing them to be more volatile, more reactive than perhaps they normally would be. And right now, it's not the time for me to connect with them. And I walk on by. When you meet an individual, and I know a lot of people see this within partnerships, when you first meet someone, if you think they're all amazing and all positive, you put them so high on a pedestal, all of a sudden you're going out and doing weird stuff that you've never done before to get this person in your life. And that's because you haven't seen the other side. And then what happens? All of a sudden, they become the other person that you ignored, and they challenge you and they frustrate you to such a degree that you say to yourself, they're like a different person. I cannot believe I didn't see all these red flags before. The truth is the red flags were always there. But if you're only focusing on positivity, you're ignoring the other side. And that's like why they say, like, we're ignorant. We're ignorant to the other side. We're ignoring the other side. And it's to realize that negativity isn't there to hurt you. It's there to balance you out when you're trying to think over positive. This is quite amazing too, because the mind internally is seeking and striving for balance. So if you're too positive on the inside, you will actually create an increase of negative thoughts. I have a friend who tracked this, by the way, which is really fun. For 2 years, he tracked his positive thoughts and negative thoughts. And the more positive thoughts he had, the more negative thoughts he had to actually counteract them. And at the end of the year, he just wound up having a sum total of about, it was like 0.154 or something. When he had more negative thoughts, he brought in more positive thoughts. We're also not meant to be all negative. When you're overly negative, you'll start to create positive thoughts to balance it out. But if you have a balance of both, right, then you're just seeing things for what they are. So if you want to balance the mind where it's not so frustrating, you can ask yourself the question of, how does this thought serve me right now? The negative thoughts that you're trying to actually get rid of. And you'll realize that it's your intuition coming through to show you the other side of something you haven't seen. When you're not frustrated and angry with it, you'll all of a sudden stop trying to be positive or negative, and you'll just be yourself. And that's where authenticity comes through. And when you're just yourself, you're grateful, you're inspired, you're authentic, and there's no need to be one or the other. You just feel grateful for being you. It's quite a cool place to be. When I got to make that transition, like, you just walk through life just being normal. The brain noise shifts and you don't think you have to do something or the other. And that frees up the space and time in your mind to focus on what really matters, which is your life purpose, and then you get to do that every day. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is very good actually. So as you mentioned that your friend who was tracking his positive thoughts, so how was like he tracking his positive thoughts? Like
Mhm.
by writing down
Yeah.
or so daily he
Yes.
used to write.
He was a bit obsessive with it. So he had a whole chart and like tick marks. He's hysterical, by the way. He loves tracking things. So he had a whole chart on it with tick marks, and he would track his positive thoughts and his negative thoughts. And he carried this with him all day. And every time he had a positive thought, he put a check mark, and a negative thought, he put a check mark. And he would do this all day long. If he said a positive affirmation, he'd put a check mark, negative thought, check mark. And the amazing thing is at the end of each day, no matter what he did, the sum total of both was zero. And so, and this is funny because we hear this from Carl Jung, we hear this from Heraclitus, Aristotle, all the great philosophers of the world, that the universe is in balance. Emerson, right? Emerson does this as well. They're trying to show us like it's all in balance. And he's a philosopher at heart. So he's like, I'm going to see it. I'm going to put it down in a system. And when he got the chance to do that, he actually got to see in action that we can't offset the balance of the universe, that there's going to be challenge and support to the same degree. And it's quite inspiring because it's like it gives us permission to see what the philosophers and the great minds of the world were trying to teach us in action, you know? And like I said, like once I started implementing this on my own, and when I have clients implement it as well, the brain noise dissipates and there's a high degree of like you just stop striving to be something that you're not, and utilize the mindset. You utilize all parts of yourself to assist you in moving forward, and you get back into your natural self, you know, where you just wake up and you're naturally who you are. Imagine if you woke up every day and you didn't try to like force yourself to be a certain way or force yourself to not be a certain way. Like, imagine what that would feel like. Like, what would you have the space and time for? What do you think you'd think about if you just didn't think that you had to change all the time? That's what the comparisons do to us. They cause us to think we have to change, and we shift from that dynamic and those perceptions. You just wake up and do you. And that's where you're most inspired, fulfilled, authentic. That's where you love your life. You're grateful for what you have. And that changes how you feel every day, changes how you show up. You know, you feel so much more relaxed. It takes a lot of pressure. There's so much pressure that we put on ourselves.
So as you mentioned about your clients, so from here, I would like to ask you, what are some common misconceptions about human behavior that you often encounter in your field? How do you address the
Yeah.
misconceptions in your consulting practice?
It's a great question because one of the greatest misconceptions about human behavior and personal development is that we need to have it to improve ourselves.
Yeah.
Every time you say you have to improve or fix yourself, you're basically putting yourself down, and you're saying that there's something wrong with you, there's something bad about you, you have massive judgment on yourself. Personal development and growth isn't actually there to fix or improve you. The truth is you're perfect the way you are. You're magnificent the way you are. So, whenever I'm working with clients, the first stage is to help them love and appreciate these parts of themselves that they're trying to fix. And after that, again, like once you stop fixing it, all that they get to do is step into their inspired life. You know, once they stop fixing themselves, you have no idea how much time and energy you spend trying to fix yourself. And in all the decades that you guys have been doing it, it hasn't worked. You can't change. So if we can't change and we can't get rid of these parts of us of who we are, then why not appreciate it and love it and see the purpose behind it so that you don't have to wake up every day trying to fix, change, improve. You love and appreciate yourself, you empower yourself, and then every part of what you are becomes a tool for you to use on your mission, on your vision, on your inspired journey. And again, you wake up without the brain noise of fixing or changing, and you just get to live. Life is so much shorter than we perceive, and we waste so much time trying to be someone else as opposed to just waking up, loving and appreciating ourselves, and living in this magnificent life that we were given, each one of us unique in our own form. And I know some people are listening and being like, well, my life's tough, my life's this, my life's that, right? But that's the reality of it, is you still haven't appreciated the hard of your life. You haven't appreciated the challenges that you have. If I told you all the challenges that I'm having and all the challenges that you're having, and then all the challenges that other people are having, and I put them all in like a box, right? You would still go and pick your own challenges. And why is that? Because those are the ones that are most inspiring to you. Those are the ones you like the most. Those are the ones you actually want to come. You just haven't realized it yet. And everyone wants to have like this self-confidence and better self-worth, and they forget and don't realize that it's not the pleasure, the pleasurable moments that build that. It's the painful ones. And it's the ability to overcome them each time. And every time we face a challenge, that's what actually builds the true self-worth. It's not an affirmation, it's the actions and the experience of who you are. And you don't get that without the challenges. You don't get that without the hardships. And so those things aren't meant to not be there. But when you can see how they're serving you and assisting you, all of a sudden you feel grateful for the challenges you have. And then they're easier to overcome. So the funny thing is it's a little bit of a catch 22. First, you get gratitude for the things that you're going through. And then because you stop fighting against it, gratitude causes you, when you're grateful for it to such a degree that you're like, I don't want it to change. I'm grateful for this experience. I don't actually need to get through the challenge. Like that's how gratitude truly works. But the funny thing is that's where transformation also occurs. Because in that moment of true appreciation for your life, you stop fighting against it. And when you stop fighting against it, your executive center gets out of fight or flight mode and gets into objectivity. And then the solutions come forward on how to move forward and get to the next step. And then you naturally transform. So it's quite cool. Again, it's not to sit there and plan and strategize on how to fight, how to fix and change. Get the gratitude, and you'll naturally come up with the strategies to overcome it because you stop trying to avoid the unavoidable, achieve the unachievable, and you embrace your life and love it for what it is.
That's right. And what you said about being grateful, it's always better to be grateful rather than focusing on other things. But many people, I think, they don't, and they aren't grateful. I mean, like, it's again depend on different people. But yeah, it is actually very good to be grateful. At least one should be grateful when they are about to sleep. Like, and end of the day, when they count what all, it's usually said that, a person by the end of the day should for like count all the positive things in his or her mind in order to be more positive and grateful, and God will give you more. So what do you think about this?
So this again is missing something. There's a huge component in what's missing here. You already like what you like. That's easy. I could ask you the things that you like today, and that's fine. That's not going to get you more grateful for life because that's an easy thing. That's an easy answer. What gets you truly grateful for life is asking how the challenges served you today. When you can go through your day and you say, I like all this stuff, easy breezy, anyone can do that. But when you look at the things that challenged you the most, the things that frustrated you the most, you're still not grateful for your life if you can't also say, I'm appreciating this because of XYZ. So when I work with my clients, when we have workshops, anything, my challenge to them consistently is at the end of the day, I don't want you to write gratitudes for the things you already like. That's easy. We already know. I want you to sit down and write down all the challenges that you went through, and I want you to see how it served you. And when you could see that everything that you went through, whether labeled positive or negative, served you, you're grateful for your life. That's when real gratitude comes in. So if you had a rough day and you could go down and see how that served you, you could see how that benefited you, you'll go to sleep grateful because you'll be like, whoa, my life is perfect and I didn't even realize it. Here I am just judging it and frustrating it and thinking that only these things are positive. But as opposed to that, it's like actually seeing how those served you. When you wake up in the morning, and I ask my clients to do this, we do this in workshops as well. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to have a list of things that are obvious that you like. It's just obvious. But then there are things that you don't like about your day that you don't want to do. Unless you're asking those questions to see how those other things that you don't like serve you, you're not going to get true gratitude for your life, and you're not going to get true gratitude for your day. So there's an over exaggeration of focusing on positivity without actually appreciation. Positivity already exists for things that you already have and see as serving you. But the things that you don't see as serve you, if you don't actually start to see how those things serve you, you won't have true gratitude in your life. And here's the twist on this as well, which is kind of fun. If you have too many positives on something, you're hooked, you're addicted to it. It owns you. And the reason is this is because if you see something as overly positive, remember, you're not seeing the other side. Einstein said it beautifully, right? The genius of, not Einstein, I'm sorry, Pablo Picasso. He says everything has both sides in terms of its positive and negative force. And pardon me if I don't get this exactly correct, but the genius of Einstein leads to Hiroshima. So if we don't see the other side, right? We don't see the drawbacks of a genius. You're just going to seek and run into it and want it and draw it in, not for, and you forget that the other side of that was Hiroshima. Like you forget what it came with. And everything in positivity, everything that has terms in positive has its price in a negative form. And if you're not seeing that, you get addicted to it and it hooks you and it owns you because you seek it. You seek it and you try to find it and you look for it everywhere, as opposed to seeing it for what it is and objectively looking and saying, here's this challenge and I know this is supportive, but I also see that if I do this and embrace this challenge, I'm going to get this out of it. And this positive thing, ooh, this is going to give me that challenge. When you see both sides, you look at things objectively and you move forward in your purpose instead of seeking one side and avoiding one side. When we seek and avoid, and we have those pleasures and pains, seek and avoid, that's our animal mind. But if you want to get to the angelic mind, the objective mind, then you see both sides of everything. And then you objectively make a decision based on your mission, vision, and purpose. No seeking, no avoiding. Nothing owns you. You have that sovereignty within yourself and you are in control of yourself. That's true empowerment.
Right, I completely agree with what you said. So, any advice on effective strategies for promoting positive behavior?
Yeah, I don't promote positive behavior.
Okay, you
I
don't.
promote self-love, gratitude, and appreciation. So if you
So
want to
what are
get
the
into
details? Yeah,
self-love,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
any
if you
tips
want to
on
get
that?
into self-love,
Yeah.
gratitude, and appreciation. One big thing is stop trying to be all one side. Look at the cultures around you and everyone in the world. And I have the opportunity to work with people worldwide in different religions. In one religion, in one culture, I could be labeled as bad or negative. But in reverse, in the United States, they could be labeled as bad or negative. What's the difference? It's perceptual. So when we're trying to seek one side and be good, remember you can't be good for everyone because there's 8 billion people on this planet with a different perception of what good or bad looks like. So what does that mean? What does that genuinely mean? That's trying to achieve the unachievable. What you want to do is actually see how the challenges serve you and make sure that you're taking these things that you put so high on a pedestal off of it. Remember the Hiroshima example. See the genius out in the world. See those Einsteins that you put on a pedestal and check in to see what challenges come with it. You take them off a pedestal and you equalize them and you bring them back into your heart. You take people out of a pit and you bring them back into your heart. And then you realize we're not all that different. We're not all that different. And when you're yourself and you're grateful for who you are, other people get to show up as the same as well. They get to feel comfortable being who they are. So it's funny, like as opposed to trying to be one side, love and appreciate yourself for all of who you are. See the purpose behind why things are occurring. And then you could move forward with more gratitude and grace in your life and for others as well. You're not going to try to change others according to you, and you won't try to change yourself according to others either. And you get to be you and they get to be you. And that unconditional love and appreciation increases like the value on your relationships as well. People want to stick around when you love them. They genuinely do. When you love and appreciate for someone who they are, they want to stick around. And when someone loves you for who you are, you want to stick around. So give yourself that opportunity as well. Love and appreciate yourself how you would want to be loved by others for all parts of yourself, because that's the biggest relationship you have is the one with yourself.
Yes, I completely agree. It's always better to be yourself rather than showing others
Mhm.
something other. Like always do what you love to do. So it was great talking with you, Carly. I really enjoyed our today's conversation. Hope you also enjoyed.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the really inspiring questions and conversation.
Anything which you would like to say in the end? Any advice for the people who are watching you right now?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Just no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you do, you have it within yourself to live that life that's most inspiring and getting to know yourself, getting to love and appreciate yourself. Like I said, whatever you would love and appreciate, whatever you would love someone else to love and appreciate in you, start with yourself first, and then the world will reflect that to you. So come into unconditional love and gratitude for yourself and give yourself permission to live the most inspiring life you'd love to. Everyone has the opportunity and everyone deserves it. No matter what you've done, everyone deserves it, genuinely. Yeah.
Exactly. Completely agree with what you said. So once again, thank you, Carly.